in true essence, the ripple effects of what the 10 wasted years has done to our economy and to our country at large will not fade away in a second or in a jiffy.
The land,
As you look around here, there are many young people who are supposed to be ideally at work, but they are vanquishing around the streets. There is poverty, inequality and unemployment, and we are expecting and looking forward to this current crop of leadership that is capable and equal to the responsibility of the task at hand to say that we must then execute the national democratic revolution, as we always say, to its logical conclusion.
The African National Congress will wrap up its 55th National Conference tomorrow with President Cyril Ramaphosa at the helm. Ramaphosa was today re-elected as the party's president for the next 5 years, while ordinary South Africans wary of crime, corruption, electricity load shedding and high unemployment rate are once again pinning their hopes on the ANC-led government to bring real change. While questions also still hang over President Ramaphosa's Phala scandal. Tonight we ask, does the ANC still carry the aspirations of ordinary South Africans? Let's welcome our guest this evening. Chris Malimaja is the chairperson of the South African National Civic Organization in Gauteng. We also welcome the General Secretary of Abahlali Basemjondolo Movement of South Africa, Thapelo Mohapi, as well as the Secretary of the Makana Citizens Front, Ayanda Kota. Remember that you can also be part of the conversation. You can go onto our Facebook page, just search for Unfiltered SABC, or you can go to our Twitter handle. That Twitter handle is @UnfilteredSABC, and be part of the conversation. Do you believe that the ANC still carries the hopes, the aspirations of ordinary South Africans? Good evening. Thank you so much for making time for us. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to and greet viewers at home. ANC being the liberation movement, it has carried the aspiration of the masses for too long. And it will never at any given time abandon that, because we live just to ensure that we are changing the life and the living conditions of our masses for the better. So such question at no stage, it does not have any space as far as we understand. We live for the masses.
You live for the masses, but the high unemployment rate?
You see, the issue when we talk of those challenges, time and again we must put in our minds that the population of South Africa prior 1994 comparing to today is not the same. So whatever resources that we are having now, we try by all means to balance the challenges and the very same targets that we need to achieve. So if one will say, no, in that time there was this high number which was unemployed, and at that time there was so and so, then we'll say by today, if you compare to that particular number, the ANC has achieved a lot.
But this is a record high number, unemployment rate.
Yeah, you must
Is it something really to celebrate?
No, we cannot celebrate. Remember, even if it's one person who is not employed in South Africa, we will never be happy. So what we are saying, we will do everything to ensure that we drop the number. Currently, when we were about to drop the number, all of us, we can bear witness on that. The COVID-19 came and shut down the economy. Who cannot believe, who cannot agree when we say, before the COVID-19, the economy of South Africa was taking another sharp curve, and it was moving very high. Everybody was getting accommodated. Now from such
Really, where?
In South Africa. Remember, we are in South Africa. So now in
but our unemployment rate was already going up, even pre-COVID-19.
Remember, I said, and I still continue to say, the population is not the same. And when I'm saying it shattered the dreams of trying to ensure that we drop. Now, if it was still going up by that time, it is not true. The truth of the matter is that as the South Africans, under the leadership of the ANC, we are at work. It's not necessarily to say we have found things being like that. And I'm repeating to say the population prior to 1994 is not the same, so even the demand cannot be the same.
But the ANC said that it will be a government of society, leader of society. Thapelo, let me quickly get your take on what's been said now here. Do you think that the ANC has anything to celebrate on this? Also, the argument that's being made is that we have experienced population growth.
Good evening, Adrian, and good evening to the viewers. I am at the office of Abahlali Basemjondolo because I could not have this interview in the informal settlement where I live in Dryden. where currently there's no electricity, where currently there's no water, where there's no access to toilets. People are raped, women are raped on their way to relieve themselves on calls. People are dying, bitten by snakes, trying to relieve themselves in the sugar canes. It is unfortunate when somebody speaks on a point of privilege, not understanding the lives that we are living on a daily basis as South Africans who are living in shacks in the rural areas, who are living in dire poverty. People are dying of starvation today. We have families that go to sleep without food. So you cannot say that we are free. The very fact that a movement such as the Bahlali Besenjolo exists today to fight for the rights of the marginalized and impoverished, and we are saying impoverished because we are made to be poor. The very fact that there are political elites today who have taken a lot of money in the Durban solid waste in the form of the former mayor of eThekwini municipality, depriving the poorest of the poor in the informal settlement of the access to, the informal settlement, we are living like pigs in the mud. We are, the waste is not collected. There's no access to water. There's no access to sanitation. So I cannot say I'm free. We have, when the country celebrates Freedom Day, in our movement, we call it Unfreedom Day because we are mourning the freedom that we are supposed to have had. So to say that today that the ANC of today is carrying the aspirations of the majority of South Africans who still lives in dire poverty, I think it's actually undermining ourselves who are continuously living this. I'm not speaking from a personal experience. Okay. It is unfortunate that somebody could come on
let's hear from Ayanda. Ayanda, your take on this.
All right. Thank you very much. Good evening to you, sir, and good evening to your viewers. I beg to differ with my comrade from Sanko. I don't know if indeed he's living in South Africa, a society, the most unequal society in the world. Mm-hmm. As you said it yourself, the statistics speaks for themselves, that unemployment is skyrocketing. People don't have power or electricity because of the doings of the ANC. The ANC was aware of this problem since 1999. It was in the white paper when they were warned. They were told that by 2007, this country will be experiencing load shedding, but ANC did absolutely nothing. What we have seen during the tenure of Zuma was the looting and eroding of the state capacity that the state cannot deliver. This country is in a crisis of water. People do not have access to water. As I am talking to you, water impact on the livelihoods of people, in particular food. 1 in 4 South Africans go to bed on a hungry stomach. So I'm saying absolutely there's no people are unemployed, there's no electricity because of the ANC. So yes, if you were to give the ANC scorecards, the ANC has failed, in particular the black working class in this country.
Okay, let's continue the conversation when we come back, specifically looking at this issue in relation to access to water, because if you look at the Statistics SA's household survey, it says that while there has been some improvement, despite the notable improvement on access to water, it has actually declined in 6 provinces between 2002 and 2021, and the largest decline was observed in Limpopo, Mpumalanga, the Northwest. And those are the provinces, as we know, for instance, with Limpopo, we are still waiting on that Yani water project to be unrolled. And welcome back to Unfiltered with me, Aldrin Simpier, as we have a conversation looking at the aspirations and the hopes of ordinary South Africans, and asking you this evening, do you think that the ANC still carries the hopes and aspirations of ordinary South Africans? Joining us in studio is the Sanko Gauteng chairperson, Chris Malimache, as well as Thapelo Mohabe, who is from the Abahlali Basemjondolo movement in South Africa. He's the General Secretary, and we're also joined by Ayanda Kota, who is the Makana Citizens Front Secretary. So what Ayanda just mentioned now was the issue around water. And as I mentioned before we went to the ad break, is that the Statistics SA's household survey actually shows that there is a decline in 6 provinces when it comes to access to drinkable clean water.
Thank you. I think the statement you are raising, you must start it correctly. Where you said earlier on, there was an improvement.
There was, yes.
There was an improvement.
There was an improvement, but there's a decline.
There's a decline.
Yes.
Simply because every time if you go to all those provinces that you are mentioned, there's an increase in terms of population. That means in terms of demand. Well, as we talk of demand...
Chris, but Kante, what happens with planning?
No, I'm coming there. There's an increase of that, and well, as we deal with that, the infrastructure that we're having has to be taken care of. So the planning and whatever that can come in, it has to match the demand. So in this case, all the provinces that you are talking about and the population that we're talking about is not the same. Now you are saying the planning can be there, but if the budget is not necessarily...
But the budget is there. The
budget is not necessary.
Water project was 3 billion rand.
I'm saying the budget
was set aside.
That is
and still to date, those people still don't have water.
That is why there's a budget for a year, is because we can only do this for this year. But if it was...
But this is indefensible.
No, it's not indefensible. No, I'm not saying...
You can't defend that.
I'm not defending that. I'm saying in terms of the budget, we budget for 12 months. And at that 12 months, we are saying we can carry work from this point to that point. And the population is not saying we stopped because there's this limited budget. Is there is that depend. The question of water, which the ANC is hard at work to show we improve, it is there. Unfortunately, there are a number of some circumstances that they lead to not necessarily to arrive at fast track as we'll expect.
What are those circumstances?
It can be a disruption of some sort.
Like what?
No, the disruption can be in a form of national phenomena. What can we do?
Or somebody stealing the money?
Possible, why not?
Why not? Okay.
Yes.
Ayanda?
Right. I think my comrade Chris is really very economical with the truth. But let me tell you that 52% of water supply in this country is in jeopardy. Now, if you look at the green drop water report and the blue drop water report, which are reports by the Department of Water and Sanitation, they give you a very bleak picture that the water treatment plants in this country are not maintained. And they are talking about water quality, which is severely compromised, and the infrastructure in the water treatment plants. That's number one. Now, there have been quite a number of cases in quite a number of towns where people have tested water and realized that the water has E. coli. And as I've made the point, that it impacts on food. Now, let's leave that. Let's go to the Valdem. Now, there's a case by the Department of Water and Sanitations. They have taken Sasol to court because Sasol has been contaminating the Valdem. And the people who are relying on the Valdem for water are over 15 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to say the crisis of water in this country is because of water population is a blue lie. It's because of two things. One thing is corruption, please. The second thing, it's a crisis of climate. Ubushushu ilanga, the crisis of climate. And as I've said, that these things impact not only on water, but on the food that we eat. The same could be said if I were to bring back the issue of electricity. Thus, the movements like Makana Citizens Front, unemployed people's movements have been championing, have been calling to say we need to move to a just transition.
Yeah.
You must have witnessed the rains, the rains in quite a number of towns. People are being displaced. You might have also experienced that in some cases, like in Makanda, you've got a settlers dam because of the drought. We do not have water. We are struggling to have water in that dam. All of us now must depend on the James Kleinhans Dam. So I'm saying it's two things, Comrade Chris. It's corruption. Number two, it is because of the climate crisis. To say it is because of the population, you are not understanding. Yep. The last point that I want to correct, Chris, our municipalities are not planning annually or yearly. There is what we call, Comrade Chris, integrated development plan. It's a 5-year plan. And that plan, then you've got an implementation plan that is yearly, that allows the municipalities budget and plan. So to say that no, these municipalities are restricted to a year planning, it's also not true, comrades.
Okay, let me just quickly go to. I want to quickly go to Thapelo. So Thapelo, part of the ANC's top 7 that has been elected today, I think out of them there are at least 4 people who have served in cabinet, some still serving in cabinet. One of those people is Nomvula Mokonyane, who was the Minister of Water and Sanitation. The other person is Fikile Mbalula, and specifically I'm going to speak about his tenure as the Minister of Police. And what we are seeing actually is that crime has been on the rise. Do you think that the election of some of these figures would actually mean that the ANC would be able to go back to becoming the vehicle that carries the hopes and aspirations of South Africans?
No, look, Adrian, first and foremost, the reason why Abahlali Basamjondolo existed was because SANCO had failed to stand for the rights of the people in the informal settlement and elsewhere. They were supposed to stand for the rights of Abahlali, and then they decided to sleep in the same bed with the ANC. So it's very difficult to see when the ANC is not doing well, when you are there to actually gain and enrich yourself and your family. So what has happened today in Nasrec is actually that the people who are there were not there for the benefits of the marginalized people who are living in informal settlement, but they are there to enrich themselves and their family. So the political elite only care about their own stomach. In KZN, for instance, in the eThekwini municipality specifically, we are told that as the Abahlali Basemjondolo, we are disturbing politicians from eating because they want to eat on our behalf and they are there to eat on our behalf. So therefore, we have no trust in the leadership of the ANC at local government, at provincial level, even at national level. We are being killed. Human rights defenders have been killed left, right, and center, whether it's environmental activists. Abahlali Basemjondolo have lost 24 activists. 14 of them have been assassinated by Izinkabi, who are actually unveiling or uncovering corruption that is taking place within the ANC. So I want to say this, that the most enemy of us as the poorest of the poor is corruption. Corruption robs of the poorest of the poor access to water, basic services such as refuse collections. We are living in dumps like we are living right now. It's because there are political elites, whether it's in the city halls, whether it's in the provincial legislature, whether it's at national level, who are only there to enrich themselves, who have no who don't care about us who are living in informal settlements. And therefore, the ANC of Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu is not the ANC of today. The ANC of today is the ANC of political elites, those who want to enrich themselves and their families, who are corrupt, and they will continue with the corruption and looting.
But certainly, of course, there have also been some strides that have been made under the ANC-led government. For instance, again, if you look at that household survey by Stats SA, when it comes to electricity, the number of households that were connected to electricity supply from the mains come from 76%, that is 76.7% in 2009. That number has increased to 89.3% in 2021. But how many of them can actually say that electricity, that there is a secure supply of that electricity? The conversation when we come back, how can the ANC redeem itself? And welcome back as we conclude our conversation looking at whether the ANC still carries the hopes and aspirations of ordinary South Africans. We're going to now take some of the tweets that you've sent through, and then we get some closing remarks from our guest this evening. This one from Paul, who says, a big no, they only care about themselves and their survival. They renege from their historical mission. They talk left and walk right. Their neoliberal policies ensure that black South Africans remain poor and the ruling elite remains richer. So as we get some closing remarks, Thapelo, I'm going to start off with you. Thapelo, one thing that we can't deny, though, is that year in, year out during the election cycle, South Africans continue to show confidence in the ANC, although the numbers may be declining. But then what is it that the ANC should be doing actually to live up to that historical mission that Mpho speaks of?
Well, I don't think that the ANC has any interest in uplifting the poorest of the poor, the majority of this country. And I think it's time, as we are saying, Nabahlali, it's time, I think it's time for the ANC to we need leaders that are selfless leaders that are interested in serving the people, not people that have enriched themselves. I think we've had enough of corruption. We've been saying the same thing every year. People are living in poverty in the informal settlement. People are living in poverty in the rural areas. People are unemployed. The high rate of unemployment is shame for young people, for instance, graduates and others. So we are saying that it's time for the ANC to take a step aside and let a new leadership to flourish in our leaders. And I think it's high time that as civil society come together and come and to discuss that people on the ground have said enough, and they said that they have had enough of the corruption, they've had enough of the ANC and itself.
But we still also have a record number high of political parties, and year in, year out again, South Africans keep on rejecting them. Ayanda, quickly, your closing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, three things. One, people will continue to vote the ANC because there's no alternative. That's number one. Number two, the issue of leadership context, it's something that society will always take a keen interest in to see who's going to be the leader. But I would have been happy if there was much emphasis on water, on food, unemployment, and electricity. I would have been much, if the attention and the focus and the emphasis that is given on leadership, the same energy, the same drive, the same oomph was to be given on issues that are affecting our people, in particular on policy shift within the ANC. That's number one. Number two, in my conclusion, we have seen the likes of Nongonyani calling for the renewal of the ANC, the soul of the ANC. But the question is, can a person who earns close to a 2 million per annum get bribed by Bosasa for a mere chicken and a cheap brandy? Can that person be trusted? Can Tony Yengeni, who's been leading, telling us about the renewal of the ANC and ex-convict, can such people be trusted that indeed they can alter the foundations of this society and be on the side of the poor? I don't know. That remains to be seen.
Okay. Chris, why is Sanko failing the people?
No, thanks. Let me start with that and say, abahlali basemjondolo, they must never ever try to grandstand and say we have failed. We haven't failed. We are hard at work. Abahlali basemjondolo must not give a wrong impression that they are killed. We are very aware they've got their internal squabbles and they're killing each other. Abahlali basemjondolo are based in KZN, so we cannot be just a regional structure. We are in a national structure, so we deal with a lot.
But Chris, this is something that even the police have mentioned. That some of the members are being killed.
Yes, what we agree.
Yeah, but not
the very same Abahlali basemjondolo we attend with the minister in Tshwane. I spoke to the very same chair who told us that they're killing each other for whatever do. Comrade Ayanda, I want to put it clear here. We are anti-corruption. We don't want corruption at all. But corruption has got no color. We don't know when you come and look for a job that we hire you, tomorrow you'll be tempted. Then we have hired somebody to go and it's so that there's corruption.
Well,
there.
You've elected people who are
We are anti-corruption.
You have elected people who have questions over their head in the Busasa matter. The State Capture Commission of Inquiry. They've been re-elected.
Everything have been channeled to the right authority. When the report is done, dusted, everybody will be served accordingly. And in this case, the mistake that we do, you think that the ANC defend corruption. The ANC says, allow the process to go smooth so that we don't have a situation where we lose cases. People who are corrupt is what we are saying. They have to roll and rot in jail. There we have no any hiding place for them. Let's not even go there. The other thing, let's check, Comrade Ayanda. I want to agree with you that if you give the example of Voltem. You are in agreement with me when I say the infrastructure is not necessarily like before was able to carry the capacity that's supposed to feed its demand there. So in this case, you are in agreement that the department has acted, has taken Sasol to court. So we are acting all everything.
Yeah, but Chris, it goes back to that argument around planning. So while you have population growth, Stats SA comes up with the stats every quarter. We get stats from Stats SA, and like Paddy Luhutla has said before, they feel that the government ignores those stats and don't respond to those stats. And then you come here and you make an argument that there's population growth. Sure, there's population
growth. No, but
growth,
if you are in South Africa, to be fair,
but you need to plan.
You are in South Africa, the population is growing nearly every day. The very same issue of electricity.
Where are these people being given birth to? In hospitals.
In hospitals,
So
yes.
those hospitals know that the population is growing.
Yes.
Those hospitals are run by a government, and that government knows that their numbers are increasing.
How many illegal connections do we have?
How does the government then respond
How many
to that?
illegal connections do we have? Can you plan for illegal connection?
Can you plan for illegal?
Connection of electricity. You can't plan.
Well, you
In
do
this law,
plan. You do
can't.
plan to deal with the illegal connection,
Yes, in
though.
this
You do
case,
plan to deal with the
You cannot plan for that. And when these things are happening, and we're dealing with
unfortunately,
them.
we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining Unfiltered with me, Aldrin Simpier. Enjoy the rest of your festive season, and see you again next year. Tot ziens.